So, you're looking to get a budget ThinkPad? Well, this guide will help you show what ThinkPads to avoid and what ThinkPads to get. So this guide will cover both the E/SL series of ThinkPads and the L series of ThinkPads. This will also be split into two categories. Value, meaning you just need a ThinkPad to use and aren't planning to tinker with it, and we have the tinkering section, which is basically upgrading, modifying, or doing whatever to the ThinkPad. So, for value-wise, I would avoid the SL412, 512 or older, mostly because this one uses first-gen Core i series CPUs, which means they are really old and really slow. Then we have the E450 to 550 until the E470 to 570, mostly because around this time they switched from the M series of core processors to the U series of core processors, meaning they are better battery life wise, but the performance suffers drastically. Also, this is the time where if you need something a little bit cheaper, the 30 and 40 series are much more better and much more powerful. And the 80 series is not that much more and offers a lot more. Wow, that rhymes. Which means Windows 11 support, a lot of new instructions. Basically, it's just a better thing if you get the 80 series instead, if you're looking to spend a little bit more money. Then we have, for the tinkering section to avoid, the E450, E550, E470, and E570, and everything in between. Mostly because of the same reason again. It's just not worth it, and it's not really that upgradable compared to the E480. So, I don't recommend that. Then we have the E14 all the way to the E14 Gen 4. You can't really upgrade that much in here. If you're lucky, maybe a RAM slot or two. But in most cases, everything is soldered. Maybe you can upgrade the storage, but it's just not as upgradable as it was before. Then, for my recommendations, value-wise, I would go with the E480 and E580. Just like its T-series counterpart, it offers so much more compared to the 70 series and is basically 100% usable today. I would also vouch for its younger counterparts, the E490 and the E590, because they're slightly faster and they are the last E-series ThinkPads to really be upgradable. And for the tinkering section, I would recommend the E430, E530, E431, and E531. The differences between these aren't that much, maybe some elements of the 40 series, but they're just equally as upgradable. And we also have the E440 and the E540. Basically, T440p, but cheaper and upgradable. Then we get to the L series, which is a stopgap between the E series and the T series. It's much more better build quality wise than the E series, but it still lags behind the T series in terms of quality. I would avoid value wise the L420, L520, and older, mostly because they are using second gen Core i CPUs. The reason why I exempted the E420 and the E520 is mostly because in the E series, you just need a laptop to basically do the bare minimum. And the 20 series does the bare minimum. But since we are in the L series, I expect that we have more cash that we're working with. So I would avoid the L420 and the L520 or older. Then we have the L450, L550, all the way to the 70 series yet again, which is the L470 and the L570. Mostly because the same reason as the E series, if you need something cheaper, yet much more easier to upgrade and is much more faster, you could get the L440 and the L430. Whereas if you need something much more efficient and much more powerful, you have the L480 and the L580. Then we have the L14G4 and the L15G4. Mostly because these are brand new systems, and I usually recommend to get the last year stuff in order to have a great discount for almost the same amount of performance. Then, what I would avoid for tinkering in the L series is any of the L14s and the L15s. Mostly because, like its E series counterpart, it's not really that much upgradable. Then, for what I recommend value-wise, I recommend the L480 and the L580. Because, again, just like the T-series counterparts, you can upgrade it a lot, as well as having all of the benefits of a modern system. Native Windows 11 support, M.2/NVMe SSDs, and almost the same thing as the T series but slightly less build quality. Honestly, if you can take care of your laptops pretty well, I think the L series and the E series won't do you any wrong. I also recommend the L14 and the L15 Gen 1 to Gen 3, mostly because they are similar performance to the latest model and don't cost as much as the latest model. Then for tinkering, I recommend the L430 and the L530, mostly because these are just like the T430 and the T530. If you can get by with the very big ass bezels on the L430, you'll manage well as the L530, but the bezels aren't too absurd there. Then we have the L440 and the L540, both of my favorite laptops from the L series, mostly because it's like a T440p, yet slightly better in a way. These have express cards, meaning you can plug in your external GPU, unlike the T440p, which you can't. Same thing with the L540. And it's just as upgradable as the T440p and the T540p. So you can't go wrong with the L440 and the L540 for sure. And with that, that is my ThinkPad guide for budget ThinkPads. In the next videos, we're going to be taking a look at portable ThinkPads, which is the X series and the X1 series, and the workstation ThinkPads, which is the W series and the P series. So look forward to seeing that soon. And with that, fuukattofumei signing out. And I don't know what am I supposed to do here. Explode?